I can't say welcome back because I just finished another episode. As I was just telling my guest DJ Smith from the Glimpse Group and New York VR. Is that correct?
NYVR, yeah, it's a meetup.
Yeah, and NYVR meetup. I appreciate you joining me, and we're a little late because had a family thing on Tuesday and had to do back to back my first doubleheader. But I'm really happy you join me. And on the last one was number 69. This is actually my 70th episode. So you get a nice round number. 70 is a good number. You know, got the days in the week there and a zero. I don't know. But DJ, thank you for joining me. Where are you joining from?
I am in Morristown, New Jersey.
All right. So about an hour away. I'm in Englewood, north of you.
Oh, there you go.
You used to be in New Orleans, a little further away. I see you got that cool Glimpse Group logo on there.
Oh yeah, I got the Glimpse and the Caribbean to remind myself that I'm stuck in a basement.
Yeah, if I had that on my wall, I'd be on Priceline all day, making myself much more frustrated. But
that's right.
Again, I appreciate you joining. Let's jump right in. Tell everyone about your career history and how you came to join Liron Ben-Tovim to found the Glimpse Group.
Yeah, sure. So it's a pretty wild story, but I started outside of the VR world, actually civil engineering and construction, and did that for a bunch of years, and got into it basically because I fell in love with the technology. So now it's almost 8 years ago. Saw the original VR headsets that were being prototyped and knew it was going to change the world, and started buying the toys and following the technology and helped found the meetup back then. And since then, the meetup just has grown and grown and grown. It's like second largest in the world. Unfortunately, we're kind of on hiatus now because we can't really meet. But that meetup put me in the middle of the industry and actually led me to meeting with my current partners, including Liron. And Liron had pitched the business plan of Glimpse, and I really fell in love with it. And I happened to have given my notice to my construction company like a week before I met Liron. So timing in life is everything, and it was no doubt a factor in the birth of the Glimpse Group.
Before we get more into the Glimpse Group, I mean, like NYVR, meetup, like, what does it feel like? You were, again, so many people are insincere. Like, I want to go into this strategically since from when I'm 5 because this is so cool, or I'm going to become a coder now because like I know I'm going to get paid and hired by Amazon Web Services or this and that. But what does it feel like to have like the second largest, meetup around a real emerging or now, prominent technology? Just by sheer passion and wanting to play with the toys and excited about it.
Yeah, I think, the meetup's mission statement from the very beginning was, not about profit or money or anything. Its sole mission was to grow the industry in New York and beyond. And I think most of the community members, they knew that was my core mission, and that was the mission of the group. And because of that, it was has been really successful. So I'm very fond of all of the members and those members, coming to the meetups and bringing me ideas on presenters and everything. It's really a close group. And probably one of my biggest struggles with the whole COVID thing is not really being able to do those events. And I've really been struggling with, doing like another webinar type of thing. And I'm like, I just philosophically can't bring myself to do a VR meetup in a Zoom. It just doesn't feel right. And we haven't really found a VR platform that can really bring 200 people together quite yet, because the technology is not quite there yet. We can do 25 or so, but then what do I do with all of the other folks that would be left out? So definitely I'm at odds and conflicted about that. We just got to get rid of this COVID thing so I can go back to doing my thing in person.
Amen. And so I can see you. I mean, I was just my last interview Lara and I have only met on Zoom through various folks, but you and I used to bump into each other at the deli. We used to see each other in person around the corner. We were neighbors, but
I
it's
know.
definitely hard to not see people. So a couple of weeks ago, I had Jimmy Gilabretti on from Pagoni VR, another one of your subs,
Yep.
part of your general manager. He talked about, and we were talking, digging deep into the fact that the supply of headsets is the biggest issue. So with your group, is that an issue, or does everyone in the NYVR meetup have a headset that if you had the technology or the software to be able to handle it, do you think that do the majority of them or all of them have it?
No, I mean, we have 6,100 members, so there's all different kinds of folks in the group with all different technologies. And up until now, really the headset, the Facebook headset had a Oculus Quest, and that has been sold out for like a year and a half. But literally this week they came out with the new headset, which is this one. It's a lighter colored one, and this one is $100 cheaper. It's $299. They are promising that they've resolved the supply chain issues. So, we're really excited that Facebook has continued to advance this industry with hardware improvements. And at $299, we're thinking it's another order of magnitude worth of consumer adoption, which then translates directly to accessibility and enterprise growth, because as you're looking to explore this technology and business opportunities, what better way to get exposed to it that your kids are raving about it because they're playing games and they go into Beat Saber and they realize, oh my God, look at what I can do in this medium.
Yeah, I mean, and the new headset, are those more readily available or also sold out and only you can get your hands on them?
So right now they're available. So they literally just came out, and I think that they learned their lesson with the last one about demand. But even we can kind of tell from the manufacturing process, like they've learned their lesson, and I think they know the opportunity that's ahead of them. And I think that there's going to be a massive amount, but I still think, once the holidays come, it's still going to be hard to find, because I think it's just going to be a high demand product this holiday season.
Oh, certainly. And I think, when I was talking to Jimmy, we were talking about how, it's one thing that you can buy iPads for $400 a piece and give them to students, or you can immerse them in, I can have an iPad just like this. I'm in 2D. It's like, okay, if I decide you're my teacher and I could turn away, look at my kid, even if when I'm on a Zoom call, my little baby comes in, I'm going to pick him up. But if I'm immersed in the technology, I don't even know that my baby's there because I have a big whiteboard in front of me and all my team members and whatever. So I think it's
focus.
The education should go in that direction.
Yeah, I think focus is one of VR's like superpowers. I think humanity has multitasked ourselves to death lately, and VR actually, if done properly, allows somebody to truly focus on one subject. And if you are a talented content creator, you can really leverage that to bring your audience to wherever you want them to be, right? Whether that audience is an entertainment thing like what Jimmy's doing, or if you're trying to train them on something, you're going to retain that knowledge. You're going to learn it better because you're doing it, and you're going to retain that knowledge better because you're not distracted with everything else that's happening in the world.
Absolutely. So now we're getting into the technology, but let's rewind a little, because we've been working together and we've known you guys for about 4 years now, but that was already after you'd established Glimpse and you were rocking and rolling. What was when you met Liron, you left your job? What was the original vision, and how much has what's going on now aligned with that, and how much of that has changed in your opinion?
Yeah, so it's funny, the core business plan kind of is still there, and the business plan was pretty revolutionary, and it's essentially a different path for a startup to grow and succeed. And I was running NYVR and seeing startups deal with VCs and the challenges of those and those relationships. And our business, our company, it's structured in a way that avoids a lot of those challenges. And all of those philosophies, you know, in the beginning, we would talk to investors and other venture capitalists, and they're like, well, why don't you do it the normal way? And we're like, well, we don't really like the normal way. We've seen it. We've been there. We're going to try it this way. And some folks were like, that's really cool. I'm going to buy it. I'm going to buy in on this. And that has propelled us to where we are today. You know, the handful of folks that were like, well, I don't know. Those are my favorite conversations because I can go back and now say 4 years later, you know, look at what has been created because were trailblazers and didn't follow the normal path. I think definitely our trajectory from 4 years ago has been a pretty linear path with regards to growth and revenue and all the different things, and technology in the background is taking a linear path. We're not at the hockey stick, or haven't been a hockey stick, but the headset, this new headset, is definitely going to bump that linear path with a crease upward in terms of adoption. So yeah, and then you know, COVID definitely had an impact. So and mainly because a lot of our technology is on the experimental side of things, right? We have a lot of people interested in the technology, and they're running pilots. But no, especially on the VR side, you know, no organizations have given VR headsets to everyone in their organization, right? It's not quite there yet. And when COVID initially hit, I think a lot of those organizations said, you know what, we're going to pull back and see what ended up happening. But subsequently, now we're just flooded with interest because now these organizations and these entities are frankly trying to figure out how to evolve themselves. And if you look at evolving technology, it keeps on coming back to AR and VR is a major solution for remote and, you know, Zoom fatigue and all of the stuff that is now a daily part of our lives.
Well, you know, I know you run New York VR, but Glimpse is both AR and VR. And we've talked, you know, before, and I've talked to, you know, many folks at Glimpse about AR being, you know, the more palatable or, you know, easier to grasp technology because we all have a cell phone. We all have a camera on our phone and we all live in reality. But now that, you know, we're living in a new reality and we're not, you know, the vision in your head of like strolling down Madison Avenue and, you know, connecting with like this retail store, which may or may not be there anymore. Do you think VR takes a leap ahead of AR, or do you think, or catches up to AR with headsets that are coming out?
Yeah, so I think my heart is with VR. I think VR is like a superpower, right? But it's also it can definitely be abrasive to a percentage of folks, right? Like it's a scary thing. You are putting this thing and you are being transported to another world. And with that power comes fear, comes a lot of things. Augmented reality, I agree 100%, especially on a mobile phone. You know, there is no fear, right? It's like, okay, now I can see my product in 3 dimensions. Amazing, right? That it's all added bonus. Where AR will take a big leap is when it transforms from on the mobile device to a set of wearable glasses. And we're getting closer to that. And I think 5G technology will be a key enabler to shrink that technology down to a form factor that is more palatable. And then there'll be a migration away from, you know, our small little digital phone screens to seeing that all of that information within our realm, but that's still a couple of years out. So VR will continue to grow in its path. The hardware will continue to get better. It will become less scary as it rolls out and more people get exposed to the right technology. And it'll be used in many different industries for many different use cases. But the two that I think I've always come back to, two big buckets for VR. It's a new way to communicate, and whether that is a marketing application or me talking to family members, right? It's a new way to communicate, but it's also a new way to learn things. And learning through experience is a huge low hanging fruit. And learning not only through experience, but in 3 dimensions. Like that's how we evolved as a species. And for 50 years, we have been taking all of our content and squishing it onto 2-dimensional screens. And VR now allows us to finally view digital content in 3 dimensions. And that will be a huge pivotal change in how we consume digital content.
I think a lot of folks like if you ask my dad, who's I love him to death, and he's the most, he's my best friend and special in many ways, but as far like he just got an iPhone a couple years ago, like more limited with technology, but again, that's fine, different generation. He's in his 70s, makes sense. But I think if you tell my dad, you tell certain people about VR, and a lot of folks, they just think gaming, but you guys have an amazing platforms and technology. You're talking about getting into 3D and not have 2-dimensional screens. I'm sitting in front of you. I have 4 screens here, but you have some technology where you immerse yourself. You're in a conference room, or you're in your own office with up to 100 screens with your TV here. With it's all in there. So it seems as if the potential and opportunity with it is limitless. Like, what use cases do you find, like with the pandemic now, are people approaching you guys about or most excited about? Not gaming, of course.
Yeah, exactly. So I think definitely the one that we've seen a ton of interest and success is in the marketing side of things. And that's everything from product visualizations to Snapchat lenses, augmented reality Snapchat lenses. That specific genre within the entire organization is very busy and very active. And that's not on the experimental side, right? Snap lenses, for example, have been around and they are mainstream at this point. And the amount of exposure that our brands are getting from having content in that medium is super justifies the couple of dollars to actually make that content. So definitely on the marketing side. And then on the other side of the coin, the training stuff. And that is being spurred on by health organizations who are they are trying to figure out what they're going to do in many different cases. And definitely using VR to teach things faster is like an obvious use case. As well as the university market, where we have a bunch of ongoing projects and relationships with universities who are trying to battle this whole idea of remote classroom, make their tuition justified by providing new and innovative tools. So it actually goes back to those 2 buckets of learning and marketing, which is a form of communication.
That's a great answer. I mean, you think for the $50,000 a year you pay for more for tuition, they could buy you, if they can get it, a $300 headset, instead of saying we'll just meet you on Zoom, which anyone can buy an enterprise account. Again, with the technologies has emerged, it's growing, and you guys have a ton of use cases for it. 5 years, 10 years, what are the applications in our life? I think a lot of people can't envision or imagine how it'll be in our life. I imagine we'll be, having this conversation, with, headsets, and I'll have my 360 cameras. Maybe I'd be better with an avatar, but where are we in 5 years and then 10 years as far as the applications in our lives?
Yeah. So on the AR side, so 5 years, I think everyone is going to be focused, or everyone still is focused on what is Apple going to do. And Apple is continually investing in augmented reality features on mobile devices. Like, you can see them telegraphing their way to this idea of Apple eyeglasses. Even with their announcement yesterday about LiDAR being put into the new iPhone 12. So in 5 years, I believe that Apple is out in the world with their augmented reality glasses, and when Apple does things, they do it right. And if you look at Apple, they started with a phone, then they went to watch and AirPods, and the next piece is glasses. So augmented reality will in 5 years be out there. It'll probably be used for limited functions because they won't make it a million features. And then there'll be competitors that'll be trying to compete with them on the AR wearables. On the VR side of things, I think it's still going to advance. That these headsets, even in the last 5 years, have gone from sensors that you have to put around your room to really being a hacker to get into it, and an order of magnitude more expensive. So $3,000 versus $300. This fits in a shoebox and really opens up like an Apple product. I think in 5 years, this headset is more a form factor like a pair of glasses, and a huge amount of growth in the gaming community will be done in virtual reality. That growth and exposure from the consumer gaming side will then percolate out through all of the different enterprise applications. And because the hardware will be easier, cheaper, the enterprises will be more apt to actually adopt it and move to use.
Well, do you think that the more professional marketing business use cases and like the meeting peer-to-peer meeting use cases will be sped up because of because of the pandemic, or do you think that gaming will still be like the initial phase in of VR?
No, I think the pandemic definitely has sped up the race. The only thing that was unfortunate is that this headset didn't exist a year ago, right? It caught Facebook off guard, frankly, and they didn't have the supply to meet the demand, and they didn't have the software infrastructure ready. And they even said that in their last annual conference. But unfortunately, COVID does not look like it's going away anywhere soon, and now this hardware does exist. And I think what we're seeing is a lot of industries are trying to figure out how to reinvent themselves. And I'm just thankful that now there's a viable hardware solution at $299 that it actually becomes a real legitimate option. The entertainment industry alone has been hit so hard, and the superpower of VR, another superpower, is this sense of presence of being with somebody, and that translates perfectly to this idea of live performances.
Absolutely. I mean, and yeah, because otherwise, the chain smokers just got their $20,000 fine for having the small concert, and I know they're, yeah. I mean, I think it's important that they adapt because that's an industry that definitely needs it, and many others. So it's called the interview series is called The Brick Wall because it's about facing challenges, facing a sale, like getting through that, whether brick by brick or my way, which is plowing your shoulder through, maybe hitting your head. Since you've co-founded the Glimpse Group, what has been your greatest challenge and how have you overcome it?
So I think probably Glimpse's biggest challenge to date has been related to the hardware, really, right? Not having the proper hardware to scale has just been tough, and it's still a super early stage industry, right? So timing is everything. And we watched many companies kind of come and go because their business plans weren't diverse enough, and they didn't focus on getting that revenue initially to survive. But because the industry has been it's still so early, we haven't been able to really productize, right? There's not enough headsets out there to form products that can then scale. But that's actually what I'm probably most excited about now, is that we can take all of the project related work that we've been doing, leverage all that knowledge, and now start to productize, which then allows us to scale. And I think that the industry is we're at that tipping point right now to start doing that.
So you think, my predecessor, you think that there will be a time where you guys can go, I mean, I know you're B2B, but do you think you'll be able to go direct to consumer with certain
Yeah, we kind of consciously decided to stay away from the consumery side of things. So we focus more on the B2B side of things.
Yeah, I knew it. I just wanted to share with everyone. But I also didn't want you to think that I didn't know that. So that's been your biggest challenge. What, as far as not being together, or again, you guys are collaborating.
Yeah.
For those that don't know, Glimpse is a parent company of many subsidiary. Like, I think it's 9, 10. I know.
Yeah. 50 professionals.
Yeah. So, and the nice thing about it, having all those subs working together and being partners in each other's company, and that's the model, is that you're sitting in an office together. And I've been there in your new office. I've seen you grow. Your new office is beautiful. I know it's vacant, but it's beautiful. So, what's it like to have to jump on a Zoom or jump on something else, or have to run into the city to meet with one person, when in the past it was like, hey, DJ, I need you for this, or I need you for this, Jimmy, or you'd all come together and collaborate. What's that challenge been like?
Yeah, so I think from developer productivity point of view, they've gained back time from commuting, and there's less distractions from being in an office. So there's definitely a case that says that, if I'm looking at a single developer productivity, it may have actually bumped due to what has happened. That said, there was this energy in the office that I desperately miss, right? Every time we went in there, even our guests, you could just feel that the space was alive and excited, and there's such a camaraderie in the whole organization. So that's definitely the biggest thing that I miss. And that directly relates to bringing clients through, and the sales process is immensely more difficult because you have to show people the technology. So if you can't bring them to your office and help them through that process, it's just a big struggle. Thank goodness that we are at a point where we can still send a headset to somebody, or they can pick one up for $390 or $299. Whereas 2 years ago, it was $2,000, and you wouldn't be able to even get through that conversation. So being away from the close knit group, that's kind of the biggest one.
So I know the answer to this also, but I think it's also important to share, because we touched upon it a couple of times, about like the fact that now they've figured out the supply problem, because of the demand, and it took 9 months or the next year for them to come out. But what's it like being in the software space when you're not in control of the hardware? A, and B, why? No, and B, why? Why is there such a barrier to entry? Is it the R&D? Is it Facebook and Google's budget? What's the deal with that?
Yeah, I think, Facebook invested heavily into this, and Facebook's view of this is that they are going to collect data. That's their business model on their users, and they're going to leverage that data to make money. That is their business model. And if you use Facebook, that kind of goes with the term. The challenge is that their competitors, they don't have that luxury, right? So the typical technology companies can't offset the hardware price or offset the justification for the R&D. And therefore, right now, it's really hard for other technology companies to compete, especially with this latest release, which is $100 less than even their previous model. So Facebook, they're sitting at the craps table, and they're putting a big chunk on this technology, which is frankly great, right? Because if they weren't, then we'd still be years or months behind on the adoption of technology and the advancements of the hardware. So it comes with its pros and cons, I guess.
And as a a successful and growing, again, not hockey stick, but successful linear growth, AR and VR company with many subsidiaries and many use cases. At what point do you get to give feedback and have relationships and conversations with Facebook, with HTC, with Pico, and other makers of headsets to give your input and get some insight as to like, when the hell is this happening? Is the supply going to be there? What's up, guys?
Yeah, so I think that's one of the fortunate things where running the meetup has been a big advantage, is that I actually knew those folks even before Glimpse was existed. I would hold events at their space, so I had a really rich list of contacts. And then through our growth, all of our subs are doing amazing work, which then gets the eyes of the folks. Like we're official partners with Google, we're official partners with Snapchat, we're official partners with Facebook. So that vision and those lines of communication have been there from the early days, and they've continued to mature through our successes, which has really been a big help. Facebook, they, however, are very, very busy, and they're very, very focused on the consumer side. They have a wonderful team on the enterprise side, but there's a lot of need for support from the software developers who are looking to use it for enterprise. So we just have to try and keep on reaching out and try and get as much support from them as possible in order to properly roll our technology in tandem with their technology out to the enterprise world.
Not to shit on your friends at Facebook, at Pico, HTC, whatever. Are there any other smaller companies that the average person may not have heard of who are trying to get into the technology and take on those hurdles of R&D and large capital investment?
From the hardware side, you mean?
Yeah, the hardware. Yeah, hardware. I wouldn't talk about a competitor. Come on.
So I think, even through the meetup, I've run across a handful of hardware companies. Typically, they tend to be peripherals. It's way too big of a leap to try and take on a Facebook with a headset. And even if you create a prototype, those companies are years ahead in the R&D. So even if you put something out, it's like, Facebook comes out and it's like your business is gone. So mainly the only startups that I've seen have been on the peripheral side of things, and the really good ones have actually been gobbled up and brought into those bigger ones. An example, a company, they did basically spatial audio, and they were at one of my early meetups. Basically, somebody put on a headset and he was holding a block, and he moved this block over here and the sound went to here. And it was the first time that our group had seen something like that in VR. And like 3 months later, they were gobbled up by Facebook. So I've seen that a handful of times. If you have a really cool technology, if it really adds value, there is definitely a possibility that you might get gobbled up. But if you're trying to compete with Facebook on creating one of these,
no, don't do it.
Yeah, even your Samsung, like Samsungs and HTC and Picos, they are all have their work cut out for them based on this move.
And I know you're New York VR, you're the VR side, and that's your technology. But as far as the AR side, I have two questions. I mean, like, why? Google and Apple both have a ton of money. Both, like, some of the biggest multinational companies in the world, biggest market cap companies. Why did Google botch their? Did they just want to be first to market? I mean, you probably have insight, and like, because you're right, Apple puts out an Apple Watch, and guess what? I paid a premium over the Fitbit. I paid a premium for the freaking AirPods, and I got these instead because I like them. And once you're in their ecosystem, they do everything well. You just want to be in their ecosystem. Google also has amazing platforms, and they're doing great things. But I think it's more of a branding or marketing question. But what's your feeling on why botch the glasses? and then let Apple come in and smoke you?
Yeah. So I think if you look at Google, and I would think that even some of the Google folks might say this, Google's not a hardware company.
Yeah.
They are a search engine, and they want to grow the ecosystem to grow their search engine business. And the things that they've done in the AR and VR space, I've frankly have loved almost everything that they're doing it, and it feels like they're kind of doing it on the R&D side of things. They're not looking to roll out a piece of hardware and get a strong percentage of their revenue based on that hardware. Whereas Apple's, they're a different animal. I think the third one that should be talked about is Microsoft. And Microsoft has HoloLens 1 and HoloLens 2, very active. And I would say that all of
Bill, I apologize. I'm sorry.
What's
I was
up?
just apologizing to Bill Gates. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to leave them out. Sorry.
So, and they've also been really instrumental in advancing both technologies. If you look at Microsoft revenue, they have a really diversified portfolio of where their money comes from. And I wouldn't be surprised if they're a big player on the hardware side down the road, because they have consistently been investing in it.
All right, that's a good answer, and it definitely makes a lot of sense. I mean, Google is a software search engine. I mean, I do have to say to all the robbers out there, my cameras that used to be Nest do have the little Google logo on it now. They totally rebranded them, but and they're all over my house and outside my house. But
yeah.
I grilled you. We talked about a bunch of stuff. How about you? Where I know you said you're in Morristown. Have you been home most of the time during the pandemic? And aside from working your butt off with Glimpse, what new hobbies? What have you been doing for fun?
So I play music, and back in March I bought a new type of guitar. I have a lot of guitars, but I never had a classical guitar. So when March hit, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go buy a little classical nylon string guitar. So me and my daughter play a lot of music together, and my son plays the drums. So music has definitely been really helpful, as well as our little dog. Having a pet around the house has definitely helped get us through. So even my kids are both 100% virtual. My wife has always worked from home. Kids are 11 and 14. So they're at the age where they can sit at a desk and sit at a laptop and learn. And we're in suburbia, so they can still go out and bike ride with their friends and keep distance. So, I think overall, I'm definitely not complaining. I think the folks with little kids, I feel for you. I've been there. And the folks that are living in the city, trying to get out, and I'm sure it's a challenge. So we're definitely thankful for where we're at. Although I'm ready for it to be over.
Yeah, of course. Do you miss the commute? Well, no one misses the. Do you miss being in the city? I mean.
Yeah, so I miss being in the city. I don't miss the commute. My commute was 2 hours each way, so it was a long time spent on the train and stuff. So yeah, I don't miss the commute. I miss being in the city.
I always said when I was in New Orleans for the past year, and I was a 15-minute walk to my office there. But I'm in Jersey as well. So to see my little kids at night, I would miss them most of the time, or miss them in the morning. It's that not commuting is definitely a blessing, but being on the weekend, it's like I'm still here. Really, isn't this my office? What am I? So I really appreciate you joining me. We've had many of the general managers on. Tell us where we could find the Mac Daddy, the Glimpse Group online.
Yeah. So just go to theglimpsegroup.com. And if you're in the New York area and you want to get involved in the community, just Google NYVR meetup, join the meetups, no charge. And I promise I'm going to start having events soon.
That's awesome. I really appreciate you joining me, taking the time. I want to be where that picture behind you is right now or whenever, especially as it gets colder. I appreciate you sharing all your insights, wisdom, knowledge, and taking the time. And I look forward to the day that we can at least elbow bump in person again soon.
Absolutely. Let's make it happen.
Cheers, man. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Have a good night.